Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
G'day, Starlo here again. I'm out on the water for another one of my Tuesday YAK chats. As always, brought to you by CM Partners Accounting, who I trust to do my accountancy and tax work. They're a really great operation. If you want to use the link down below and get onto them, they'll give you an obligation-free quote and consultation on your accounting needs. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I was trying to remember when I was driving down here to launch if I've ever actually bait fished out of my kayak before, and I don't think I have. I really don't. Done plenty of lure and fly fishing, but I don't think I've ever soaked a bait. I'm going to do something really strange today. I'll show you and tell you about it in a minute, but I've got a little bit of pedaling to do first, so I'll get to my spot, and I'm actually going to anchor up. Something else I don't think I've ever done in the kayak. I have years ago, just with a house brick on a bit of rope in shallow water, but I'm actually going to anchor in slightly deeper water today, so we'll see how it all pans out. Could go completely pear-shaped. Who knows? All right, stick with me. You'll notice that I've got my life jacket on, and I nearly always wear my life jacket in the kayak, even if I'm in a really small body of fairly shallow water. It's just a good habit to get into. And the other thing I've got on is my little Workos clip-on flashlight. This thing is a gem. It's largely replaced all those headlamps and things that I used to use in the past. It's so good. You can just cycle through the different strengths. It's got all sorts of other functions too, strobes and coloured lights and things, but I like the fact you can just turn it on, cycle through the strengths you want and stay on that nice bright white light. It's just so much more convenient than headlamps and torches and things. It weighs about 2 ounces, less than 50 grams, and I can just clip it to a pocket or the strap on my life jacket or my camera harness or whatever, and it's always there in case I do get back to the ramp a bit later than expected. The other thing about it is they're cheap. They're cheap enough to have one for the boat, one for the kayak, and one for the car. They are anyway. If you use my link down below, you'll get a really good discount on them. Well worth having a look at. I made a short video about it. I'll put a link to that down below as well. But while we're on the way to the spot where I'm going to do this unusual style of fishing, I thought I'd just have a little bit of a talk to you about what's popularly known these days in the era of social media as FOMO, F-O-M-O, fear of missing out. It's become a very popular term since social media became such a big thing, because we see stuff on Facebook or Instagram, things that other people are doing, holidays they're enjoying, meals they're eating, fish they're catching, and there's a human tendency to feel a certain amount of jealousy, to feel that you're missing out on that wonderful thing that those other people are doing on social media. And I think it's a real trap that a lot of us fall into. And we're all guilty of mostly putting our good times and our good experiences on social media. Those people that are catching those big fish on social media or having the perfect holidays or eating the amazing meals, they have just as many tough times as you do too. Don't worry about that. Times when they don't catch fish, times when it rains on their holidays, times when their meals are not particularly tasty. So don't get locked into the idea that everyone else is better off than you are. But it got me thinking about my whole history of fishing and the fact that FOMO does play a big role in our fishing. I remember when I was a young bloke, I was always reading the fishing magazines and thinking, oh, I wish I was up at Hat Head spinning for Spanish mackerel off the rocks and catching big cobia, or up in North Queensland catching barramundi, and here I am down on the south coast of New South Wales catching flathead and the occasional mulloway and bream and whiting and things like that. And I felt like I was kind of missing out. But, when I finally got to do all those things, I realised that There's no guarantees in fishing. First time I ever went to Hat Head, we drew a complete blank. We were there for a couple of days, and I think we got one little mac tuna. Despite all those wonderful articles that we'd read in the magazines and everything else, you know, it's not a guarantee when you go to these red-hot places that you're going to catch fish. The other way I think that FOMO used to affect me when I was younger was that I'd be doing one particular kind of thing and thinking, wow, should I be doing something else? Summer months in particular, it seems like you just didn't know which direction to go in. I'd be spinning flathead in the river and thinking, wow, should I be out on the rocks live baiting today for a tuna or a kingy or whatever? You'd go and do that. You'd go and live bait on the rocks and catch nothing. You think, oh, I would have been better off staying in the river and catching a flathead. And you can end up chasing your tail, trying to do it all and not doing any of it very well. I think that's a real trap that a lot of us fall into as well. With the passage of the years and as I've grown older, I think FOMO's having less and less of an influence on my fishing. I'm living more in the moment, enjoying what I'm actually doing on the day and making a decision that, you know what, I'm going to go and chase blackfish today, luderick, and that's exactly what I'm doing today. I've let the cat out of the bag. I'm going to do something really unusual. I'm going to chase luderick using my BFS gear. I've talked a fair bit about BFS on my YouTube channel. Those of you who are listening to this as a podcast, you might like to jump onto Starlo Gets Real, the YouTube channel, and have a look at those BFS episodes. BFS stands for Bait Finesse System, and it refers to a system of using really light, ultralight baitcaster reels on light rods to throw super light lures mostly, and it's so much fun. But I'm going to do something a bit different with it today. I'm going to use it with a float rig to fish for luderick or blackfish. Sounds a bit weird, I know, but I reckon this might work. But anyway, getting back to FOMO, I just enjoy what I'm doing, what I choose to do these days. If I decide to go out and catch a blackfish or catch a bream, I make the most of it. I don't always catch them, and you've certainly seen that in the last couple of Tuesday chats from the YAK. I've caught nothing. And there's a very good chance I'll catch nothing again today because the water is still icy cold. I'm not seeing a lot of life. I'm not hearing any reports that people are getting blackfish or luderick at the moment, not in any numbers anyway, and it won't get to be good for luderick here for another month or two. But I'm going to go and try it because I want to see what this gear's like fishing for the luderick. But I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm going to enjoy trying to catch these luderick on my float gear, on the BFS outfit. And, you know, I might be missing out on something else. Another lake away, they might be catching big blue-nosed bream. Out on the rocks, they might be catching drummer. Just a week or two ago, apparently there were big schools of long-tailed tuna blowing up close in off the coast, not too far north from here. If I'd been there, if I'd had a lure, if I'd had the right gear, I might have caught one of those. But you know what? I wasn't there, and I didn't catch one. And they'll be there next year, and maybe I'll get one, and maybe I won't. But I'm just learning with the passage of years to enjoy my fishing more and to not stress out so much about what I might be missing out on when I do one particular thing. And if I can give you one tip to improve your enjoyment of fishing, it'd be to adopt the same attitude. Live in the moment, be aware of what you're doing, enjoy what you're doing, and reap the rewards of it. It's not rocket science, but gee, it makes a difference to your overall attitude towards fishing. I'm having a lot better time with my fishing these days, stressing out a lot less about what I might be missing out on and just enjoying being there and doing it. All right, let's get up here. I've got a spot where if I am going to catch a luderick or blackfish, I reckon this is where it'll be. It's quite close to civilization. It's just off some jetties and boat moorings, very close to the Boat Shed Cafe here. I've caught some lovely luderick here in the past. I've got a little bit of cabbage weed. I've got a little bit of green weed. I picked up some sand to mix up some burley. I'm going to put down a bit of a burley trail and see if I can catch a blackfish on the BFS. All right. Getting pretty close to where I want to fish now. So I've got this fairly simple anchor set up, but I've got it set up so that it's a breakaway rig. I've actually got a cable tie on this end and my cord goes to the other end. So if it did get stuck, I'd be able to break that cable tie and it should just pull the anchor straight out in reverse. Got to think about stuff like that when you're in a kayak. You don't want to get something jammed in the bottom that you can't break off. And of course, if the worst came to the worst, you'd just have to cut the cord if you were in a really dangerous situation. But I think this is going to work just fine. All right, let's get it in. I've got my cord wrapped on an old plastic handline spool, which stops it getting tangled around my feet and also makes it easier to deploy. I'll quietly slide the anchor into the water upstream of where I want to position myself and let out cord as I drift and pedal backwards with the tidal flow. You want to let out a reasonable amount of line to give the anchor a chance to bite in and find a hold. That feels pretty solid. It's definitely grabbed the bottom. And I'm reasonably happy with where I've ended up. I've caught blackfish here before. Let's hope they're here today. I'll use this stretchy dock line I've got to clip to a loop in the anchor cord. Then pay it out. My native watercraft kayak has a pulley anchor trolley set up along the side of the hull that I can use to pull the anchor line back towards the stern. I don't really want to be anchored upside on in this reasonably strong tidal flow. There we go, I'm spinning around into position with the bow facing downstream and the stern up into the current. Everything feels pretty good to me. Time to mix up some burley and get into it. I'm chopping up some green weed and cabbage to mix with wet sand, which I'll form into balls and drop over the side at regular intervals. Use old scissors for this as it's pretty hard on the blades. Okay, let's grab that BFS outfit out of the holder and bait up. I've got a simple running float rig with a greenweed fly on a dropper and a bare hook at the end of the leader, which I'll bait up with some greenweed. I like to wrap or plait this weed around the hook, starting on the leader just above the hook eye and wrapping the strands in opposite directions over each other to help secure the bait. But then I also take a half hitch of leader around the top of the bait. Around the bait, not the hook. Only a short cast is required to get the float out into the current, and I feed out a little bit of line to get the drift started. From that point on, the wonderfully free-running nature of this Shimano BFS reel allows the rig to drift completely naturally with the current. That's working so well. I watch that brightly coloured float tip like a hawk, and if it suddenly dips or vanishes out of sight, I engage the reel and strike. Nothing. Damn. I wonder if that was a fish. The bait still looks okay, so I'll lob it out for another drift. I absolutely love this style of fishing, but I've certainly never done it with a baitcaster before. It feels like it could be a really effective approach to this game. But sadly, this afternoon, the luderick just aren't playing that game. My baits and that weed fly remain completely unmolested, drift after drift. I think I can smell donuts, and I don't mean wafting on the breeze from the nearby cafe. Well, the blackfish might not be biting today, but I tell you what, I think this is going to work. It's a really good way of fishing a float. Just the weight of the float is taking line off the spool as it drifts away. It's just like using a centre pin reel, probably even freer running than most of my centre pins, to be honest. I'm going to do a bit more of this. The fishing for luderick or blackfish here in my part of the world tends to be really good in late September, October, November. I get some big ones right here. In fact, I've made a couple of episodes in the past, and I'll put links to them. So I'll definitely be back when the weather warms up a little bit and the water warms up and those big ocean blackfish move in. This will be a bit of fun, I reckon, getting them on the BFS gear. But it doesn't look like it is going to happen today. I've put a reasonable amount of burley in, I've had a couple of possible downs, but I think they're more about the bait hanging up briefly on the bottom or on weed that's rising up above the bottom. I don't think any of them have been fish. I'd like to believe they were, but I don't think so. I'm going to pack up in a minute and start heading back. And that's exactly what I did, lifting my little anchor and wrapping the cord back onto the hand caster. That setup worked really well too. I'll use that again next time I do this or any other form of bait fishing from the YAK. It'd have its applications for lure and fly fishing too. Well, I didn't catch a blackfish on my BFS gear, but gee, it felt like it was working. I reckon that is going to be a lot of fun. Probably the biggest disadvantage with it was the shorter rod. A little bit hard to pick up the slack when you do strike, but I don't think any of those things I struck out were fish anyway. I reckon they were the bottom. It's going to work though, and I'll definitely come back out in October, November, early December and do it again in these same spots. I'll be very, very surprised if I don't catch some nice blackfish. I'll make an episode about it as well for my YouTube channel. Look, that's about it for this week, for my Tuesday chat. And I'm actually going to take a break for a couple of weeks now. I'm headed up to the Northern Territory in about a week's time to catch up with my good mate Glenn Watty Watt from Barefoot Fishing Safaris. Glenn's a great guy and a great fishing guide, and he's got a couple of days off, and he and I are going to head out to Bynoe Harbour. And yes, we're going to use BFS and ultralight baitcaster gear, and we're going to hunt some barramundi and threadfin salmon up on the shallow flats, sight fishing for them. It's the coolest time of the year up there too, and the fish can be a little bit tough, but we reckon we'll find some, and it'll be a bit of fun trying to catch them. So I'll make an episode about that as well. Make sure you keep an eye out for that. But I am going to take a week or two off from the Tuesday chats, but they will be back. I know that a lot of you have been enjoying them, and I've been really enjoying your feedback and also your suggestions on some topics that I might tackle in future, and I'm taking all those on board. I won't be able to do them all, but I'll pick the eyes out of it, and hopefully I'll do a few of the suggestions that you've given me. If you've enjoyed this and you're watching it as a video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you don't already subscribe to the Starlo Gets Real channel, make sure you do. If you're listening to it as a podcast, thank you. But also, get on there and check out the Starlo Gets Real channel on YouTube and have a look at the imagery that goes with the words that you're listening to. As I said at the beginning of the episode, it's brought to you by CM Partners Accounting. Why don't you get in touch with them using my link down below and have a talk to them about doing your accounts and your tax. It's that time of year, unfortunately. Look, the other thing I'll mention is the fact that you can actually help to support me make more content like this by shouting me a beer or buying me a coffee for just $5. And a lot of people do it, and I'm really, really grateful. I respond to every one of them individually and thank them for their little donation of $5 or $10 or $15. It really does help put some fuel in my tank to travel somewhere and just get out there and produce a bit more content for you to watch or listen to. It really does help. There's not a lot of money to be made out of YouTube, and I haven't found any way of making money out of podcasts yet, but I still enjoy doing them because I know you enjoy watching and listening. Anyway, that's enough prattle from me this week, but remember, don't get locked into that FOMO thing. Don't be jealous about what other people are doing. Don't get stressed about what you might be missing out on by doing the thing that you're doing today. Just enjoy the moment. Enjoy your fishing. Love being in the great outdoors, even when it's as cold as it is today. It's just beautiful out here. And I'll catch you next time somewhere in the wonderful world of fishing in a couple of weeks' time for another Tuesday chat from the YAK. Until then, this is Starlo wishing you tight lines. All right, I better get back to that ramp before it gets dark.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.